I still worry about that every day. I still catch myself like I can't, like I shouldn't be saying that or shouldn't be thinking that because, how would you feel? That's how I always want to parent my child. It's like, how would I feel? How did I feel when my parents said this? Well, you didn't feel like the best person in the world, so why would I do it to my kids? So.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of The Day After. If you're just tuning in when we publish this, then, well, it's the holiday season. And when the whole world tells us to be full of joy and excitement and cheer, sometimes some of us, we just can't capture that. And it's a really hard and challenging fucking time of year. So if that's you, welcome. You're not alone because you're in a community that gets it and that understands it. And we appreciate you being here. In today's episode, we will dive deep into the journey of Dimitrios as he opens up about losing his mom to cancer. And he gives us insights into the complexities of the relationships that he had and the transformative power of vulnerability. We're really grateful that he came on and was so open and so personal with us. And we hope you enjoy it and you find some comfort in knowing that you are not alone during this holiday season. Cheers.
My mother, she passed away in 2009 to cancer. She fought for 10 years. In the end, it just got her. In no uncertain terms. So that's why I'm here. I saw Ashley posted on LinkedIn about the podcast, and I reached out to her at work. She asked me if I would be okay talking about it, and it's kind of the first time I actually am to people that aren't close to me. So it's a kind of a big moment for me personally. I kind of know if you believe in the whole spiritual type thing. I think she is around this week. My brother is getting married on Friday. So yeah, pretty emotional. So yeah, glad I'm doing it. Damn it, I thought I'd get out without crying. Holy cow. You believe that?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Is this your younger brother, Dimitrios?
My younger brother, yeah. He's 37. He's in Arkansas. He just got into residency down there. So building his life with his fiance. And yeah, I know she'd be proud. So
Was she there when you got married, out of curiosity?
No, she was not. I was married in 2015. She was not there. She was no. I wish my wife actually never met her. I had good reason for that. I knew if I brought her around early, they would ask me, why aren't you dating her already? So it was kind of like, it was kind of like, keeping her at a distance from the family. I'm Greek, so it's kind of like a thing, kind of have to be careful who you bring around. So you're Italian, right? Ashley and CJ, you guys are Italian. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So they never met, unfortunately, but again, it'd be approval. It wouldn't even be a thing. So would have been nice. That's one of the things I have an issue with this whole with losing my mom was that whole thing, her not seeing her kids get married. I thought that was, one of the many reasons, it hurt.
So it's you and your brother. Do you have any other siblings?
Just me and my brother.
And how old were you guys when your mom passed?
23, yeah. And she was diagnosed when I was 14. I think I was a sophomore in high school. Yeah, that makes most. Yeah, I was a sophomore in high school when she was diagnosed. She fought for 10 years, came back 4 times. I don't know the long-term name for it. It's sarcoma, it's called. If you look up sarcoma, it's a very aggressive cancer. I believe it started in her uterus, went away for a few years, and came back in her kidneys, I believe. And she had surgery so many times. It was an up and down thing with her. So 10 years of that. And it finally went to her pancreas and basically a death sentence at that point. So it was only a few months after that.
Yeah. Do you remember the time that she got diagnosed?
I do. It was around, I think it was like October, because she was getting ready to take me to school, and she just wasn't getting up. She was just in pain. And I'm like, Mom, what's going on? I didn't think of anything, this crazy. So I thought it was just like the flu, and that's what she thought too. And, she went to the doctor and did a test, and I remember it was crazy. The test was around Christmas. I remember people left. People were at the house, like my cousins and my family were over they always would come over for Christmas, from St. Louis, and they had left because the holidays were over. And I figured mom got in the test, whatever. And they all came back, and I'm like, they're coming back, like, for what? Like, I didn't know at this point. My mom had been to the doctor, and I was home from school, and I hadn't known any of this. So I'm like, why are they coming back? And then put two and two together. My mom, right when she like saw me, she started crying, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And they said the C word, and I'm like, oh, wow, okay, this is shit just got real, like right quick snap. So you become a man right there, as the firstborn, as I found out. So,
Yeah.
And then, she fought that time and years up and down. Yeah, I wish I could say more, but it was just, struggle, but then again, she had those good years in between, where she was in remission. She had gained weight and, she was traveling with her twin sister, they were having a great time. My parents actually had to go on vacation one time together without any complications, and it was a great time. That's what they wanted. They left me at the store. We had a cleaners at the time. That's what they, that's why you have the firstborn son take over the business. You know how that goes. But I was happy to do it. They were happy. And that was the plan. I was willing to go along with it, build the empire. But those curveballs come, and after she passed, I couldn't be in the business. I couldn't be anywhere near anything family business related. It was just too much for me. I don't know how my father continued doing it, but he had no choice.
When you say like you had to become the man of the house, like how did your life change from 14 to 18? Like those are really formative years, high school years for somebody. Do you have you looked back and understood like ways in which life had changed and how you had to grow up so fast suddenly?
I always knew, once I heard that word, like it would fall on me. That's just kind of the way the dynamic was. My dad was dependent on my mother. She was the rock of the family, and I couldn't expect my little brother at the time to do anything except be a little brother, which I was okay with. And I thought at the time I was okay with being the rock for my father as well as my mother at the time. It was just thrown on me. It's just the way the dynamic was, like not, it's always connected to family. I know it is. I don't want to I want to make this about my mother, but there is other things involved with her death that affected me. One of them was the responsibility I felt after. I don't think that was fair of my father to put that on me after her death, during her death. Like who was I crying to? Nobody, because everyone was crying to me.
Yeah.
Right.
My mom was coming to me. My mom was actually so selfless and so loving and, caring. Her biggest worry about all of this was us taking care of my father after she was gone. Like she's on her deathbed, and I'm like, Mom, like, calm down. We'll be okay. Like knowing deep down inside we might not be. Like, what the hell am I going to tell her at that point? I'm already pissed off that I'm going through this with her. No one's asking about me, including my mom. Do I fault her for that? I don't know. That's how it was. That's just how I was raised. So you said 14 to 18. It was more like 14 to like 30. Like I skipped my 20s. Like it was, forget college. I got into Michigan State. I got into other colleges I wanted to get into. I never told my mom. She would have told me to go. But there was no way I could do that. I would feel guilty. And again, I don't know how I would have handled it, how my father and everybody would have handled it, but I felt I had to stay. Then again, everything happens for a reason. Would I be here talking to you guys if I didn't stay? Would I have the family I do now? Would I, be the person I am now? Probably not. So, there's always a silver lining.
Yeah, it's interesting that it comes up actually pretty often when people have a loss in around the age that you did. And it's always that question of like, do I go to college? Do I go to that next phase of my life or don't I? And it's been interesting to hear kind of people's journeys in that. And, I don't think there's any one right answer, but it's it's interesting that like everything fell to you immediately since 14. And I wonder, it's been 14 years, I think you said. So how is that like impacted your life now, like in growing into the man that you are, knowing that you had 10 years, which is a massive amount of time of caring for an entire family and for a sick mom.
It's, you don't even, like, I just started recently thinking back on it. Kind of the reason why I feel comfortable talking to you guys. Like, I had stuff I had to get through,
Mm,
like, talking to people, just letting it out, you know, personal stuff I had to get through. I didn't even
yeah.
realize I was going through. Like, it was just life. I was supposed to be that stressed. I was supposed to be that worried. That's what you do. You fight through it. You don't stop and talk about it. You don't think. You just keep going. Like, why are you going to cry about it? No one's going to care. Stuff like that. All that gets to you. I
Mm,
was, until recently, I was, very overweight, very not
mm,
unhappy, but I would look to food as like my comfort, and I did that throughout my 20s. I was a very
oh
active
wow.
child. I was a very active person. As soon as my mom got sick, I just got this depression. I don't know if it was depression. I don't know what it was. It was just a dependency on, like, food never talked back to me. Food never told me what to do. Food never expected things from me. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? Like, it was just like my thing. 20
yeah.
years of, just being, I'm just recently getting over that. It was kind of like I had to dig deep and, realize that, those 10 years my mom was sick. Yeah, I was the rock, but it just got harder after, honestly. Like, being,
Hmm.
trying to keep everyone together, like she did, it was tough, and that was, it sucked to tell you the
Yeah.
Yeah.
truth. I felt like, personally, I didn't have anyone to turn to. And, I had a couple of cousins, we'd go out,
Hmm.
and I got us, shout out to, the one cousin. He knows who he is. He kept me together, and my brother, obviously. But other than that, I felt alone. It wasn't, and I
Mm,
didn't know how to, I don't know if I could blame anybody for that, because that was just, maybe that's just how, people were. And at that time, it's like, if you don't want to be there for me, then, excuse my language, but fuck you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know if we could swear or anything, but that's how
Yeah,
I
oh, we
felt.
swear
Like,
all the time.
I have to call you to tell you I'm sad. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to.
Right.
If I have to call you to tell you I'm sad, and that's
Hmm.
that. Maybe it was an ego thing. Maybe it was a. You know what I mean? I don't want you to be the person that I'm sad to. It was just, but that's how I felt. So, and that's why I don't open up to many people, because I
Hmm.
gotta know if you're real or not. Like, you guys have been through it. You guys know exactly what I'm feeling,
Yeah.
even worse. I mean, losing a parent
Hmm.
sucks. CJ, I read, I can't imagine, man. I just can't imagine. Like, it breaks my heart. So,
Mm,
We gotta talk more often, Dimitrios. That's like literally, I feel like so much things that I had felt going through. Although I was a little bit younger when she passed and things like that, but it was a little bit similar circumstances in the sense that obviously still a very different situation, but the oldest daughter, though, for my dad, I was my mom's second oldest, but it just like, well, just a lot of responsibility. And I don't even know that it was something that like my dad like put on me. Like, I think it was something that I just took upon myself to feel like I had all this like responsibility to,
hmm
help keep the people together, to help make sure my dad was happy, to make sure my siblings were happy. So it totally resonates with that.
I noticed my daughter did that. She's my oldest, and it was subtle and not so subtle. And I like tried to work really hard to make sure like, hey, I'm the dad. I love you guys, but like you have to grieve in your own way. I'm good. Let me like I have a support system. You don't need my to be my support system. But it was immediate, right? Like the first day that we got in the car after my wife died, she sat in the front. Like there was just all these subtle ways where she was like trying to like I think in her brain, she was young. She's 15 now, so she was 12 or 13. And at that age, she was just like almost subconsciously trying to fulfill that role of like, okay, mommy's gone. So now
Yeah.
like I'm going to take on that role. Like it seems like such a natural thing. And, and from my perspective, it's on the parent to set those boundaries, right? To be like, hey, like I
Yeah.
recognize that this is happening. Maybe you don't,
Yeah.
but like let's talk about this. Let's deal with
Yeah.
this. And then that sense, Demetrius, what you were talking about with, basically like fuck you if people don't want to like be able to sit with your grief. That happened almost immediately with me, where I was just like, you know what? This grief is my own. And then there are a few people who I will share it with and open with. Otherwise, I don't want to deal with anybody because there just felt like so much judgment and all these things that people would put on me, or like, how are you doing? But what they're really asking is, are you okay? So we can just pretend like everything's
Yeah.
fine and we can like move forward and like you could be the same person you were before. And it's like, well, fuck you, I'm not. So if you don't want to sit with me in this, then I don't want to talk to you about it.
Yeah. There's that. There was radio silence from some people. Like promises were made,
Mm,
we're always going to be there for you, stuff like that. And it's like, from people I expected nothing less from, because that's how I grew up. We were very, very, very tight. It's
Yeah.
hard to
yeah.
talk about my mom without talking about my cousins and my family and everything. And she was the glue. She was the
Mm,
glue, obviously, because ever since she was gone, hasn't been the same, at least to me. And, I can't blame
yeah.
anybody again for any of that, because that was my stuff going through it. I never told anybody. I didn't know how to express my frustration at that age. And I really, at that point, didn't give a shit to, because I was dealing with my mom dying and
Yeah.
whatever. So it's hard for me to like hold grudges or being like mad. It's just the way it is. But again, if anybody had picked up the phone and called me at that point and said, "Hey man, how are you? Let's
Mm,
grab a beer." I was there. I have friends to this day because of those times that were still tight. Like friends did it.
mm,
Why, I felt neglected, and that hurt. That hurt way more. It added on to the grief. It did. I felt like I was losing an entire family instead of just my ma. And I know she wouldn't have liked that,
Yeah.
but you know, it is what it is at that point. And it took a while for me to get over it.
yeah.
It's built myself up. I have a, beautiful son, beautiful wife. Now I'm enjoying life. So, I know she's happy for she's up there watching
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
me, and she's, looking out for my brother too. So,
I'm curious about your relationship with your brother. You've mentioned him a few times now, and it seems warm-hearted when you mention his name or mention my
mhm.
brother. What was it like going through this and knowing that you have to be protecting him, and then she passes, and then essentially you're trying to move into adulthood physically, like even though emotionally you were there. What is that? How is that a relationship evolved, and what was it like early on when going through all the cancer?
With my brother, we were really close. Nintendo, basketball, rivalry, all that. That didn't really change when my mom passed away. I became more protective, if that's the case, if that's
Oh,
possible. I don't know how that would be possible, but I felt like it was like, all right, now he doesn't have a mom anymore, and he's just entering high school. It's, I got to take care of him, and I just missed him by a year. He went to Lane Tech. He got in and I had graduated. So if it was 1 year, he would have had a senior as a brother. It would have been so awesome. But we missed each
Yeah.
other,
uh,
missed each other by a year. But yeah, we're always tight. It's hard for me not to talk about him without getting emotional, especially with him getting married now. But I always thought he was like, he
mm,
should be a better version of me, like if I'm 1.0, like, he can be 2.0, if I'm the role model, right? Like
yeah,
he looked up to me at everything. He imitated me. He tried to do everything I did. Why not make him a little bit the advanced version? That's how I always felt. I would have take great pride in my brother.
yeah,
I take great pride in my brother. He became a doctor. That's awesome. I'd rather
Oh,
have
that's
that
awesome.
than me being
uh,
a doctor. I take pride in him. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so,
Yeah.
yeah, always have his back. Always, little brother. He can do no wrong to to me, which is, it's little brother get away with anything.
Did you have any of that, Ashley, with your siblings?
Yeah, I always felt like I was kind of looking out for them and not like wanting to be their mom, but like just wanting to make sure that they felt loved, I guess, and taken care of. And, like they had like those times when she like wasn't there, or those things. Like I even think about like my brother having to do like his, dance at his wedding, like without his mom, which sorry to bring that up, Dimitrios, because I know that is like literally Friday for you, but that makes me like incredibly sad,
Yeah, I went through it. He's going to have to go through it. I don't know who he's going to pick for it. I don't
Yeah.
know what's happened with that. So,
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like in a way, I not in a way, I definitely did have that where I just felt like I wanted to make sure my siblings were taken care of, and I'm sure they were like very annoyed by that. Or maybe not. They can come on.
yeah, there were times where he got annoyed. Yeah, I got annoying. He got annoyed to me. It was still a brother. It was still little brother, older brother, at the same time, which it did in the beginning, it did get weird, but once high school hit and I went to college and, girls started becoming a topic, that was it. We bonded and it was like a roommate, basically. That's kind of how it was with my father and my brother. We were like roommates. It wasn't even like didn't even feel like father, son, brother anymore. It was just roommates.
Did he go on to date or get remarried, your dad?
Yes, he did.
Oh, he did. How was that?
Do you have another podcast, another hour and a half we can?
It's a good idea for the future, because I feel like that's another topic that could...
Part 2 of the Maravillas saga, right? Yeah. So to put it fairly, my father and I always kind of had like a rocky relationship. Losing my mom kind of brought out I don't want to say weaknesses, or my intolerances for him and his tolerances for me. Like we had no buffer anymore.
Yeah.
And we clashed a lot. And it got to the point where right now he's not in my life. I haven't spoken to my father in 8 years since the night of my wedding, actually.
Oh, wow.
It was just, yeah. So I have no relationship with my father. So that adds another layer to this weekend. Me seeing him for the first time in quite some time. My brother knows, we talked about it, and, my wishes, I hope my wishes are, met from my father's side, and, stay on your side, I'll stay on mine. And it's about my brother that day. And I really don't want to get into any of our stuff. So yeah, that was, as soon as I lost my mom, it was kind of like, I don't get along with this guy. I love him, but I just don't get along with him.
Yeah.
That was a painful one to swallow too, but that's a whole other subject. We don't have to get into that one. I would love to talk about that if you guys want to, but this is about mom, not about dad.
Yeah. I almost like, almost have a sense that like you essentially, even though you didn't have a great relationship with him, you really lost both your parents when your mom passed.
Yeah. I've kind of felt he lost himself too a little bit. To be fair, he didn't know how to handle it either. She was the parent most of our lives. The first 10 years of my life, my dad barely saw us. He worked at a factory. You know what I mean? Then they got the cleaners and he was around more, but it wasn't like we had an influence of him every day growing up. It was my mom and her side, so I kind of, looking back and reflecting, I kind of think that's where our issues kind of started. He came home at, when I was 10, and he was home every day, and I was this type of way, when maybe he wanted a son that was that type of way, his mold. I was a mama's boy, man. At that point, I saw the good in everybody. Right. I would rather risk you screwing me over than me feeling bad I didn't give you a chance.
Yeah.
My dad's the opposite of that. My dad's protective. Don't trust anybody. Everyone's out to get you. I can't live like that. And that we clashed a lot after my mom was gone. So what the hell they saw in each other, when I have no idea. That's a whole other thing.
So I'm curious too. You said it's been 8 years. So you got married, and that was the last time you've spoken with him. You also mentioned earlier that this has been recent to me is, 3 to 5 years of this kind of healing and this journey of you like really exploring your grief and trying to work through this and everything that you've gone through. do you think there's a correlation to where you finally had that influence out of your life that gave you the space to start this healing, or is that just coincidence?
I think that was the first step. Even just not talking, though, it took 2 or 3 years to finally be like, dude, he's not even like reaching out. He's not even trying to,
Yeah.
can't. So it was like, why am I worried? Why am I the one that's always, it got to the point where I'm like, hold on, it's 50-50, and then I'm like, wait, I'm the son. It should be 90-10 the parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not equal. Why is it on me? And it took all forever to get to that point. And once I got there, it was just, yeah, why do I need people like that in my life? I don't. It doesn't matter that you birthed me, that you were my father,
Mm.
it doesn't matter to me. You have to earn your place in my life, I guess. And it's not hard. Just show action, show you care. Like, I'm a very easygoing, open guy, but don't expect much if you don't give me much. And if that makes me an asshole, sorry. I have people in my life that I don't have time to see and I want to see. You know what I mean? Like, why would I make time for people
Yeah.
that
Yes.
don't give a shit? That's all. And unfortunately, my father fell into that category. So,
Yeah, that's always a tricky part with family. I think like we have like these expectations put on us that, oh, they're family, so that means you automatically have to have a relationship and it's supposed to be good, but it's like, is that true, right? Cuz it's like I have friends who are so dearly close to me, and like you said, like I'd rather spend time with them than some other folks, and that is more fulfilling in my life. And just because somebody shares my same last name or has the same blood as me, I don't like, yeah, I kind of came to that same place too of like, does it really mean I'm supposed to?
it'd be great if we were close, but sometimes you're not. Like, yeah, you don't have to force it.
Right. What did the healing look like for you? Like, what are some of the things you did, or like, how did you first recognize like, okay, I need to start doing some work, and whatever work is for you on yourself?
Well, for me personally, it was my weight. I was getting to the point where I could, like, my knees hurt walking, and I was 35.
Mm,
And I'm like, this is not the way to go. And then the real tipping point was we were uh, the best man to my best friend at his wedding, and we danced, Greek danced, and I could only do like one time around, and I was out of breath.
mm,
And I'm like, this is not good, man. Like, you can't be doing this. I think, yeah, I was unhappy, just not unhappy, but not even, I don't know if it's called depressed. I was just in my own feelings about everything. I wasn't right mentally. That was it. You know, I was like, okay, I got to start, you know, getting my head right. And then honestly, what pushed me over was having Orion, my son.
Yeah.
mm.
Like, I, I have to be around for him. I can't not be here another 40, 50 years, and if it's just me getting myself, looking deep in myself and finding what's wrong with me and getting to the point where I can be healthy, feel healthy, feel happy. He deserves that. He doesn't deserve anything less. So that was kind of my motivation.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's how, I mean, it's not as deep as, some people, but, I didn't,
No, that's
picked up,
amazing.
picked up hobbies. I still have basketball. I still play video games. My wife's been an incredible support system. But, sometimes you just have to look in the mirror and say, you're not happy with what you're seeing. It's been 20 years.
Yeah.
Mm.
Let's do something about it, man. Let's just do something about it. And I did.
That's amazing. That's absolutely incredible. I'm curious what, so you mentioned marriage, child. What at that point when you got married, and then I think more specifically when you had a child or knew that you were having a child, was there anything that came up for you of now you're going to be a parent and everything that you've gone through, and what was your approach to that?
Man, I was scared. I'm sure as every father to be is. But, losing my mom, there was that whole, not the health scare. I knew it wasn't genetic, but, it creeps in your head, like, oh my God, is the kid going to be healthy? And then with the whole, like you said, I lost both parents, I have to be sure I'm not, take the good from my mom and the good from my dad and not the bad. So there's always that worry. I still worry about that every day. I still catch myself like I can't, like I shouldn't be saying that or shouldn't be thinking that because,
Mm-hmm.
how would you feel? That's how I always want to parent my child. It's like, how would I feel? How did I feel when my parents said this? Well, you didn't feel like the best person in the world, so
Yeah.
why would I do it to my kid? So yeah, I don't know if that's ever going to change, but it's it's an ongoing process, that's for sure.
And how old is he now?
He's 17 months.
Oh wow.
17
Yeah.
months.
In
Yeah.
the thick of it right now.
He's 17 months, but he's the size of a 3-year-old, which is really awesome. But we're yeah, he's 30 pounds. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
he's
I love it.
but he's awesome though. He's the best. Look, you have a shitty day. You come home and he smiles at you. It's over. It's the best.
Is there anything that you've noticed that comes up in your relationship with your wife, or I think more specifically, just you guys parenting, right? So I know for me, different situations, obviously, but so much of what goes through my head and what I see happens with my kids are if there's anything that feels remotely dangerous to them, they're just like, please don't do that, daddy. You can't do that. Please don't do that. Like I had a motorcycle and they're like, please don't ride your motorcycle anymore. Like all these things
Oh
where
man,
they get really, really nervous. Right. And so I think I mentioned on the podcast before, but my middle child, 6 months after my wife died, I ended up getting diagnosed with a rare nerve tumor. And so he had to go through all of that and
oh my
everything. And
god,
then we had to get surgery. We didn't know if it was cancerous. Thank God it wasn't. And that was a whole month-long process while he was still early in his grief. But yeah, so like I've noticed my kids get very, very um anxious around what I'm doing. So I've had to learn to kind of adjust to that and let go of it to be like, you know what? Like I don't need to do some of these things. Not that I'm like a huge risk taker, but like even the appearance of it, or, there's a lot of different things. But I'm just curious if things came up for you as a dad, or like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine like him losing me. I want him to go through that, or like losing my wife. Like, do any of those things kind of come into your thought patterns?
yeah, like it's weird. Like just randomly, like I'll just be, driving to work and be like,
Mm,
be careful.
yeah.
You have a son now. Don't cut that guy off. Even little shit like that. Yeah, it hits me at random times like that. I
Yeah.
don't have motorcycles. I'll never get on one. I will never go skydiving. He doesn't got to worry about me doing any of that. but but yeah, it just hits me at the random. Like if we have a flight coming up or got to go somewhere. It's like, do I really have to go? It's not that, it's you think like that. Maybe you don't, maybe I'm crazy, but just shit like that happens. Like, do I really have to make this trip, or do I really want to do this? Stuff like that.
Hmm.
But that just cause I don't know. Is that cause like I want to be home with him all the time and I miss him? I don't know. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's hard to tease out, right? I mean, I
I don't know.
literally changed my entire life just to prioritize having those moments with the kids because it's just going to go so fast. And we really separated when my wife died, and I just went into my own kind of space and had to just deal with my grief, and each of my 3 kids kind of went into their own space, and it took, I mean, a good 2 years for us to really come back together. And I think this year I finally feel like we're an actual functioning close family again.
Nice.
And it's interesting, like it obviously is correlated to all the healing and the work that I've done, which has been so fucking painful. But yeah, I mean, I think, we go through these experiences and we just are like, okay, we know it's important in life. And once we identify it, we want to prioritize and do everything we can in our life to make sure that we have that.
That's it. Yeah. Well said. It's like you're on a podcast or something.
That's funny.
I love
That's good. We should start a podcast.
it.
So I do want to talk about like your mom specifically a little bit, and
All
maybe
right.
not so much
Yeah, let's get back to
before.
the subject of mom.
Yeah, yeah. Um, But one thing that we like to ask people is, do you have any uh, rituals or just things that you do to connect with her? So you mentioned, you believe that she's watching over you, and it's interesting because I don't know what my spiritual beliefs are, but I do have a sense that Ariana, my wife, is here. I talk to her every day. I believe she's watching over and she's orchestrating things for me. So I'm curious, like, if you have rituals or things you do of like, okay, I want to connect with mom and I'm going to go do this thing and it reconnects me with her.
Reconnecting, I'll just talk to her.
Mm,
If that's,
yeah.
like a check-in, like, hey, ma, how you doing? Like type of thing. I don't know if people hear me. I don't know if it works. It just makes me feel better.
Yeah.
It could
Yeah.
be in the car. I have a few different songs that remind me of her if I want to like let out a good cry or whatever.
Yeah.
I play those and, we kind of, or just memories of she made me
Mm,
laugh, we'd get high together. It was, she was like my best friend. So it
mm.
was, yeah. So it was, I missed her. I miss her a lot. She'd be having a blast right now. Oh, God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's hard.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the toughest part is how would she be now? And it'd be awesome,
Yeah.
She'd love the shit out of her grandson. I can get her more pot easily now. So she'd love that.
Mm,
So yeah. Yeah, that's the toughest part, I think,
Yeah.
is missing her now. Because I know she'd be happy with how I turned out.
mm,
Maybe not the road I took to get there. There was little bumps here and there, but I'm here. And my brother,
yeah.
I think she'd be proud of him too. So
Mm.
yeah.
I guess the other thing that I'm curious about too, from both of your perspectives, because you guys both have similar experiences. What is it like in for you to share that grief with your partners, so your wife and then with your boyfriend? Yeah, what are those moments like?
I think, well, for me, Nate also lost his dad at a young age. He was 7. So I think we kind of have our rituals or our, traditions actually is probably a better word. So on like both of their anniversary, we go out, like sometimes it changes, but like, this year for Nate's dad's anniversary, we went and got beef on Wex at a place that him and his dad would go. And, I do like, we do various things like go out to dinner and things like that for my mom's anniversary and her birthday. And so we kind of just make sure that we always celebrate the person,
Mm,
in a way that we would if they were alive. Obviously we're celebrating the day they died, but like we're celebrating their birthdays, things like that. And I will just tell stories and share photos. Like
mm,
when we'll talk about our past or our childhood or a story comes up. And obviously I'm not, it's not obvious, but I've spoken about this, but my family, my mom's family, we're all still very close and see each other for holidays and things like that. So even like introducing him to them and like him being a part of that family, I feel like it's just another way in which, they help keep her memory alive too. Like they tell him stories about her. So, and I think it'll change as, like we get married and we have kids, like they're, at our wedding, I'm sure we'll, honor both of them. But I think we just both do our best to like always make space for them.
yeah. So I'm curious what it looks like for you when you're having a few things, like a moment where you're having a difficult moment, missing your mom or something triggered that. What does it look like for your relationship with your wife? Like, how do you feel supported in those moments? And then how do you share your mom with your wife?
Well, it's actually interesting. My wife, before she became my girlfriend, my fiance, my wife, she friend zoned me
Oh, no.
for about, like I said, we were friends. I didn't want to bring her around, but in her eyes, she friend zoned me, and that's the public story. So we're gonna go with that. But we share the fact that both our moms have the same birthday,
Oh,
December
Wow.
20th.
yeah.
So she reached out to me one year on Facebook, actually. She said, happy birthday to our moms. And this was a few years we hadn't talked. We hadn't talked for whatever reasons. She was doing her thing, I was doing my thing, and that's how we reconnected. So you could say our mothers brought us together in a way by being born on the same day. How crazy is that? She's always been very understanding of it. We were friends when my mom did pass away. She did say she would have loved to be there at the funeral, but I didn't want to deal with having her there, having other people there that I'd have to explain why there's friends. I was just like, I don't want to deal with any of that. Please, I thank you. It's appreciated, but let me just get through this. So she's always been the best. I wouldn't be here today if I wasn't for my wife. So she's held me together for quite a number of years. So I do owe her. Another person I got into gear for was my wife. So yeah, she doesn't. It was very tough for her in the beginning. She didn't have anything to like compare it to. Tragically losing anybody like that. She did go through something with her grandmother. She had Alzheimer's, which in and of itself is I've seen both, and Alzheimer's might just be the only worst thing than cancer. Seeing someone lose their mind, just not know who they are right in front of you. That was horrible. So she's been through that. So, I'm there for her for that. I kind of, I'm the expert on the grief. She comes to me sometimes, because I've been through it a little bit more. But yeah, she's been my rock. So, and I kind of needed that. I really needed that to get over my thing, my mom passing and all that. I needed someone to, be there for me. Like I was lacking that the whole time. So, everything happens for a reason. Got to laugh about it at some point.
Yes. The other question that we like to ask is, do you have any one piece of advice for somebody who is in your shoes and has gone through what you've gone through? Or how to support somebody who's gone through what you've gone through?
Find something you're motivated at and stick to it, I would say. That was, right when my mom died, I got into computers after college, basically. I was an econ major and I didn't want to do anything with that. And right when she died, I said, all right, I have to get something to distract me, basically. And I did. If you could afford it, if you have the time, again, some people like you have families, you can't just stop what you're doing and go to school like I did. But that's what I did. Find something to get your mind, at least for a few hours a day, off of your grief, just so you could be a regular human. Not to say that you shouldn't grieve, but doing it all day, it didn't really help me in the beginning. It was just a whole cycle of, just bad decisions. Just find something you're motivated at and stick with it. And then another friend of mine told me, stop thinking it's going to get back to normal. Just accept that it's a new normal. And she had gone through something similar, more so to you, Ashley. Her father died a little younger, but her saying that, to this day, it still resonates with me. It's a new normal. And I tell everybody that, is losing anybody, don't think of it like, not even a new chapter. It was a new book for me. Like that life was over. So it took years to get over, but again, maybe I'm not the one to look for motivation or for how to get through it, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm here. So yeah, that's my advice. Just
we understood the phrase "new normal" before it became a thing.
That's right.
Yeah,
100%.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's is it a thing now? Like, I'm
It
sorry.
is,
Is it something? Is it? Oh shit. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I was new normaling in 2009. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you were able to take a moment here before we finish up and maybe thinking about your 14, 15-year-old self, or even your 23-year-old self after losing your mom, what would you say to him? What would he have wanted to hear?
If I could see him right now, just that you're going to get through it. No matter how dark, no matter how depressed, no matter how just weird and mad you get, you'll get through it. You're going to find a way. And maybe, people used to tell me, people that, were consoling me that, these tests are only put through to people that can get through them. And it's
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I roll, right? Yeah, like why am I? Who picked me? Why'd I get in that line? All those questions.
Exactly.
But if you think the other side of it, that what, fuck yeah, I am fucking strong enough to get through it because I fucking did get through it. So
yeah,
you know what? Maybe there's some bullshit crap reason for that saying to be true, but I'm here. I guess that's what I would tell them. Like we wouldn't have time to talk about everything that happened from 14 to 40. The bottom line is you're going to get through it and you're going to be happy.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on and sharing. And I hope your brother's wedding is beautiful. And I hope your dad doesn't get in the way of that and that you get to enjoy that time.
Well, thank you guys for having me. Anytime you guys want to talk.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Day After. You can find this podcast and more at our website at www.thedayafter.com. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd really appreciate it if you take a moment to leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcast.